Good morning on this beautiful Sunday morning, this spring 2026. I'm reflecting on the return of the Jews and the Israelites to the Holy Land and the three major monotheistic religions and their views on the prophecies that is going to follow out of this return. For many, many people around the world, this is just some loose prophecies and some words in old books by prophets, if they even believe in these prophets, that we shouldn't consider too seriously, especially if it affects politics. And I agree on the last part that if it affects politics and how we deal with each other and other humans uh, to fulfill a prophecy, that means we are trying to do what they call in the religious words, do God's work. Like we're trying to force an alliance or a situation or a return so that the prophecy can fulfill itself. We are hungry and no no have no patience to wait for the Messiah to appear for himself or for the big Mahdi for the Muslims or the big um, return of the Christ for the Christians, and so or the King for the Jews. But if you look at it without political influence and see what the old holy books, especially the Old Testament and the New Testament, then the Quran and mostly the revelations of the Prophet Muhammad and what's called the Hadith, they tell us about the last times and the appearance of the Jewish population in big numbers in the Holy Land and around it. We see some signs that for every rational human being is worth looking at. Instead of putting it aside, I have turned to look into it and try to see if these signs could hold. Now, a danger in doing so for many religious people is that we would like to read in the texts like of the Bible what we want to see on the ground. So sometimes we overinterpret, and I know people, also religious scholars, who overinterpret some signs to see them fit in a special situation and a special time. And that's not necessarily true because we have seen it before in history where some what they call eschatological views and views on the doomsday scenarios have been put forward by old scholars, and it never happened at their time. They saw some signs that showed them that, oh, we're getting near, it's just around the corner. Now this is happening, now this is going on. The invasion of the Turks in Europe and the Crusades and what's happening there, and so on. Whatever we see, we can interpret a certain condition into it that's not necessarily true. So it's always necessary to approach these old texts and approach these prophecies. I believe in the old prophets and in the Christ and in the message of Muhammad because they follow a line of the one God who they wanna talk about from generation to generation. It's all been about showing people that there is only one true creator, and that's the only one worth turning to, praying to, understanding, and living accordingly to. So these prophecies have a lot of value in them, and they will and have shaped world history, both in the Middle Ages, but now again after a century with, of course, atheism and secularism and so on. People have turned to look more further into these prophecies, especially in Europe and in America, and you will find that very surprisingly that it's also happening among the Jews. If you go back to the time of Ben Gurion, you will see many of the Jews were mostly secular. And if you look at the people who are running politics today alongside the Prime Minister Netanyahu, you will see that a lot of them have some strict religious views, and in some people's opinion, they are very extreme religious views. Anyhow, extreme or not, fundamentalist or not, it's religious views that's shaping what's going on. The same when you go to the Muslim side, whether you are uh, a fighter in the Muslim groups or somebody who's opposing the Israelis or working on politics like the Iranians. you will see it's formed by religious ideas. Not to say that it's only religious ideas, but they have a great impact. And so these prophecies in the old holy books, they show us also the road to how these people are thinking and why they are thinking like that. So when I look at these signs, like you see I heard from this lecture a few days ago, by a Christian theologian, speaking about Israel and their return and the second coming of the Christ and the peace that will last for 1,000 years when he returns, and it will be with the Jews. They will turn their eyes towards him. And the prophecy of the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem is a great milestone in that. So, what are these three old books actually saying, these holy books for the Jewish, the Christian, and the Muslims? Um, well, they are saying almost unanimously, but in different ways, that there will be a great power and return for God's chosen people, the Israelites. Israelites means the people who have been following Israel, the old prophet, son of Isaac. Abraham had Ishmael and had Ishak, and then his son was Jacob. He was called Israel, the one who turned his face to God, or something uh, close to that meaning. And so they are called the Israelites. They are all from his 12, uh, from these 12 tribes that came from him. And so they had the land divided between them after Solomon, and we had King David and Solomon building the temple, and King Solomon ruling the biggest um, kingdom for the Jewish in their history. And so it's a big milestone and inspiration to say we want to rebuild the temple. It's our right. It's God's chosen word to us that he will make us return and give us the temple back. We just have to be righteous and good enough to deserve it. And it seems like they are deserving it now, and they have been righteous enough. Maybe if you compare them to their neighbors, they are more righteous than them. And if you compare them to the Europeans and to the Americans, they are more on God's track than they are. Um, I am from an Arabic background, so I'm also grown up used to like look at the at the conflict between the Arabs and the Jews as something where the Arabs are right and the Jews are wrong. But when I grew up and I understood philosophy and history and religion, I start looking at concepts like who deserve what. Sometimes people give to someone who don't deserve it and they take it from them before long. But you have to be deserving in God's eyes to receive something in this earth, something like that. And that's what the Jews also uh, have of feelings that now God is fulfilling his promise to them and returning them to the Holy Land. And the Arabs are, why is this happening? And why are the Palestinians on the run? Well, it's a tragedy, of course. Nobody can understand why somebody should be pushed out of a land so others could take it over, even though it's a holy land. There should be another solution, but nobody is or has been able to find it and make it work. And so it's either or. They will fight to death. And so the Arabs are very, very determined on keep fighting the Israelites now or later. And whoever like make peace with them, they will look at as a traitor. But they do not really look inside the Arabs. That's the big problem in my eyes. Looking at how they're running their societies, how is their um, their goodness and what can you say, fairness in life towards each other. How much suppression and problems do they really have of greed and manipulation? And so, how could God inherit and give something to people and make them win while they are so corrupt and so bad? I'm speaking about the monotheistic religions here. They have this very, very clear, not only ideology, what can you say, philosophy and thought that God will only inherit to those who are just and righteous and good. This is what the Quran states. So the Muslims have this very clear in their minds, those who understand the Quran, that unless we are righteous and good and deserving, God will abandon us and curse us. You find the same idea in the old Jewish texts where the prophets are trying to put put the message forward to the people to get them back to God's road, telling them, if you're not righteous and good and fair and doing the things that you need to do to deserve God's mercy and love and care, and He will grant you the power and wealth that you need, you will not receive it, and you will be cursed, and the whole nations will be coming down upon you time after time, and you will lose, you'll keep losing. Finally, we reach this moment in history, maybe in 2000 years, and I agree with that theologian. I have heard it from others as well, both Muslim scholars, some Jewish scholars, and this guy, that well, in first time in 2000 years in history, the Jews are gathered in big numbers and they are strong, powerful, also around the earth. And this is a very clear sign for the three monotheistic religions that the homecoming of the Jewish population, of the Israelites, is back to fulfill God's wish. This theologian has this notion that God is using them. It's not because God's really loved them, it's just because He's using them so the Messiah will come. And when He comes, most of them will turn to Him, and so they will be loved by that. So it's all surrounding the return of the Christ, whom the many Christians see as God, God Himself, or the part of God that became human. So they call on God, calling Jesus' name. This is blasphemy in the Jewish religion and blasphemy in the Muslim religion. And they will say, this is no good. The one God has told us there is only He, and we will not be in touch with this God. He's not like us, and He's not human, and He never becomes human, and He will not give Himself up to be killed, neither part of Him. He doesn't need that to forgive us. He sends us messages and messengers, and this is what He's been doing with the Christ. He is a Messiah, says the Muslims, and for many Jews, they could have accepted Him like as a king, as the one who would show them the road, because he's of David's house. He's one of the sons of David, as clearly stated in the timeline. If you read the family line in the New Testament and in some of the last part of the Old Testament, you will see he is from David's house. So they should have followed him, but they rejected him. According to the Christians, it was because he said, "I'm God," or part of God. Oh, I'm God's human form. I am who I am. And so they build a whole ideology around that word. I am who I am. That means, who is He? He's God. No other solution. And that doesn't work, neither in the language, nor in the logic, nor in the social affairs. It's not a one-sided quote that you can say there is no doubt about it. Like when you read in the Muslim book, there is no God but the one God, praise Him alone, or something like that. You can't find any double interpretation to that. There is no God but the one God. You find the same in the Old Jewish Testament. But the Christians, they carry this with patience and say, okay, we will see who will win in the end. We know from the prophecies, we read the Old Testament, and they all show towards the New Testament. And the New Testament shows that there will be this return, and when He comes, and He will come, then the world will change, and we will see who follows Him, and those who doesn't, well, they will follow the Antichrist, and they will be lost, and they will go to hell. But the Jews and the Israelites, they have another opinion, and they share that with the Muslims, that it's the Christians who believe this prophet was a god and made him a god who will be the losers, because God has never accepted such blasphemy on His behalf. He will never forgive people saying that, putting a human as a god. Anyhow, this is not the discussion now, but it's just to show that they are all awaiting the return of the Christ. I was surprised when I was young and studied the Muslim religion in depth, the Hadith and all, about the last times. There are special chapters in many of the Hadith books about the last times, and they show that the Messiah will return, and He will return to a place near the white menorah in Damascus, near the Umayyad mosque. That means, and the place where people like pray. He will come down there, and He will find His way to the holy city of Jerusalem, and the Antichrist would have put the town and the place under siege, and the last holdout of the people who are really monotheistic they are afraid of losing, or they are under pressure. And he will come, he will turn the tide, and he will just blow some wind in this guy's face, and he will melt. He will melt like salt in water, says the hadith. If you look at the Old Testament, and this Old Testament is used by many Jews um, and many Christians who believe in the Old Testament and those last time prophecies, they will see almost the same text, and they will say, yeah, Muhammad, that guy took it from us and he read it from us. And the Muslims will say, no, he wasn't. He was illiterate. He couldn't read, and he didn't have that deep contact with the Christians and Jews to know all the text. He didn't have time to study all that, and nobody claimed that he was studying all that from the Arabs. There was a European claim by Orientalists that Muhammad studied on one of the Christian scholars or something like that, or he took his ideas from Arianos, inspired by his blasphemic, or his way of saying he was a Christ, he was a Messiah, but he was not God. And they got persecuted by the Catholic Church and the other churches, saying, "What are you saying? This is our God, and you're saying he's not." And so many Christian groups who didn't believe uh, in Christ as the God, and we still have them today. There are small groups of Christians who see the Messiah as the Savior, as the King, as the way, as the one God spoke about will return in the end times, but they stop there. They don't see him as God. And this is what I believe the Messianic Jews are. They stop there. They do not go all the way saying he's the God, but he's sent by God, and he's by God's Spirit. He's helped by God's Spirit, the archangel of the goodness, Gabriel. But anyhow, they're all waiting for his return. The Jews call him the Messiah, the Christians call him the Christ, and the Muslims call him the before the Al-Masih, but before him the Mahdi will come. But it's not the Mahdi they're really waiting for. He will be one of the greatest signs that the Christ is arriving. So he will follow the Christ, and he will be part of what the Christ is gonna show of change in the world. And so we are nearing these times, according to the books, where this is going to happen, but have all the signs revealed themselves. There is a discussion that not all of them have revealed themselves, and as long as not all the signs have revealed themselves, there is still some time to come for the Christ. So what should people do? Some of these people, they try to force it through. Like I believe those aggressive people from the Muslim communities in Palestine, when they attacked the Jewish kids and women and people going about their business, jumped over the wall and started killing and shooting and taking hostages among women and kids. Um, Not only I was shocked and heartbroken, it's wrong. It's just as wrong as hurting the Palestinian kids and the Palestinian women by some of the extreme Jews. This is not good neither way. But I believe of what I've read and know about them, that they did it because they were also trying to force through that conflict that will happen around the Quds, around the holy place in Jerusalem. And I heard once a Muslim scholar say one of the signs that hasn't appeared yet is that they will tear down the holy mosque of Al-Aqsa, and they will build a temple. So we still have the temple building. Another thing I was looking for and talked to this theologian about is the expansion of Israel. There is probably going to be an expansion up to the north, to the Litani River, maybe all the way up to Sidon, and out on the west to the lakes, south of Damascus, and to the borders of to the mountains south of Damascus, the Golan Heights, and to the border of the lake of Nazareth and the Dead Sea. From there to the Dead Sea. That means they will expel the Palestinians or make them just live there in small numbers and take over the whole land and include Sinai. But you can see Sinai is already included some way, even though indirectly, because it's like a buffer zone from the Egypts. And in some Jewish texts, they see that God has promised them even the Nile Delta. It's like from the Nile to the Euphrates. So they will go all the way to Basra, all the way to Baghdad, all the way to the river on the other side, because between these two rivers there are deserts, but there are also great areas of very prosperous land, a lot of water, beautiful places, good mountains, plantages with fruits and greens and dates and a lot of things. It's a very blessed and historic ancient area for the civilizations of the world. So it is and has always been the center of the world. Of course, not according to the Chinese, who see their world as the center of the world. So that's why they call it the Middle Kingdom and the North Kingdom and the South Kingdom, because the world to the Chinese is different. It's far east according to the maps, but to them it was like the center of Earth. So they have another theology and understanding altogether. So when Chinese they hear about these three monotheistic religions, they try to understand, but it's a different perspective and view of the world that there is there. Even though both Islam, Christianity, and the ideas of what Judaism is has also spread there. And this is another sign they see, the Christians see in the Bible, that everybody will hear about the Bible, or every nation will get the chance to know about Christ and evangelical texts. And so says the Muslim, that the time will not come before Islam's word has spread all over the world and everybody will have the chance to hear it. And if you go back to the Old Testament, you see that the prophets are talking about the destruction of the temple, the diaspora of the Jews, the long lost times, that they won't be able to gather any power, and then they will be back with a great power, and they will gather there on God's command. And this is what's also stated in the Quran, that you will have 2 times 2 returns, and then the third one, God will gather you from all over the world. You will come like rolled around, and like it's like they will come whether they like it or not, or they will come willingly because they see it as the way to go. And so God gathers them there and gives them the power, the Israelites, and so he will look what they're going to do. Are they going to be fair and good, or are going to suppress people and see themselves as the only deserving humans, and thereby really bringing destruction upon themselves? Because that happened to everybody else. It happened to them before. They should learn from their own history, first of all. If you kill, if you step over the righteousness, the goodness that God has given you, and if you not try to be good and build the earth to make it prosper for every human there, you will lose, because God will make the humans turn against you again, and he will weaken you. This is what he tells the Jews, the Israelites, in their on the tongue of their prophets. I believe in those prophets, and I watch as well. So I'm watching what's going on. Are we getting closer to those times? And one of the big signs I'm watching for, and also waiting to see if it happen, is of course the destruction of the Al-Aqsa and the building, or the beginning of the building of the temple. Why the Israelis are not doing it is it's because they fear the surroundings, the Arabs and the world. Great reactions, huge masses, people awakening and gathering together against them. They're very, very, what can you say, aware that they shouldn't make these provocations unless they know that there would be no answer, there would be no response to it. And in some of the interpretations, Iran fits in all this as a place that will be conquered, destructed, and there will be a fighting force from Iran that will oppose the Jews and so on. So many of the Christians, they say, wow, these signs are all appearing one after another. And this is great. This is the times we should watch out for. I've even talked to Christians who see the numbers, they read in the numbers saying it could be 2027, 2028. The Christ will come, because there are some differences between the old calendar of the Gregorian and the new calendar. The old calendar before the Gregorian and after it, where they went from the lunar calendar to the Gregorian sun calendar. and some some years are lost there in between, and so they say we have to account for these years, and that shows that it's not year 2000 but 2000 something where it's going to come. These prophecies and numbers are even being calculated by some of the clever Jewish scholars who dwell deep on the, of course, the old holy book of Moses and the other prophets gathered together in that book called the Old Testament and the Bible, Bible for the with the Christian evangelion text as well. We have to account that some of these texts may be missing, and some of them are not translated correctly. And many theologians, also Old Testament prophets, they say we cannot really be sure how they have been translated or given us, but we can put the context together, or we can try to interpret the words and like understand it in the shadow of other places that's saying something similar, and put the meaning together. However you turn it, it seems there are clear signs that we're approaching some times where things can happen. But it doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow or after tomorrow. It could be in 50 years, in 100 years. And that's a very short time if you look at it from God's perspective. This is what the monotheistic religions would tell you. 1,000 years is like one day in the time space that gods have created, like outside this world. This world is running according to some speed, and the sun and the moon and the way it's running, it takes 1,000 year to make just one day of the speed that God is like presenting his creation in. And so they see, well, we are not rushing. It's not today or tomorrow, but it could be in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. The Muslims have also some special signs that, well, the Muslims would be weak, and the nations would be stronger than them, like eating them up, chewing them like meat. There will be always a small force holding out and fighting, and they will be around Damascus and the places of Damascus and the Levant, the Sham, Bilad Sham. That means the crescent moon place, or they will be around Jerusalem and Quds and like in that area anyhow. And these prophecies has been written down already at the time of the first caliphs, uh, where they wanted to gather what Prophet Muhammad has been saying and answering on questions. And he was asked like what will happen. And some things that haven't appeared yet is the opening of the Constantinople. It means it will either fall or be out of reach for the Muslims again, and they will reopen it, they will retake it. And the same with Rome. Rome will have a grand opening. So all these things haven't really happened yet. There are some things, according to the Muslim view, of course, that really haven't revealed themselves. There is a lot less text in the Christian Bible, even yeah, the Christian reading of the Bible. So there you have some very strong indications, but weaker details. And so there's a lot of space there also for the Christians to say, we cannot be sure, we're still awaiting. And the same goes for the Jewish text, where they have a lot, there they have a lot of detail, but they cannot really see that everything has appeared. Yet, especially the temple and the return and the great power of the Jewish and Israeli community over the world, or over that, could it be that old world? Could it be the between the Nile and the Euphrates, where they will have the great power also over the Arabs and taking over? How could they? I asked this theologian a very, very deep question after he finished. He wasn't speaking about all these things in details, but I was reading in his book while he was talking, because he was talking to a congregation of people who didn't need all this information, let's just say it like that, or couldn't cope with it. So he was keeping his speak very, very close to the surface and giving them very small headlines and just confirming them in the Christ and that he will be back and so on. That reminds me of what Muslim scholars do as well, to just confirm people and let them stay on the way, and the same does the Jewish, to confirm their own people, showing them the signs, but not dwelling on the details, because the devil is in the detail and many people cannot follow or understand or need it at all. And maybe they won't cope it. It's like swallowing a whole sea for many people. But while he was talking slowly and taking his time to reach just one small point, I was looking into his deep book, a commentary on one of the Old Testament prophets, Ezekias. And in the end of it, there is a big map. This map is showing Israel as it's promised in the Old Testament. And according to this map, it will go all the way up to northern Lebanon and the south part of Turkey. The part that also goes up to what they call Gibla and Damascus in the east, and the Sea of Jordan in the Dead Sea on the east coast, and to the south you will have the Nile Delta, and you will have the Sinai, and you will go all the way to the east part of it to Euphrates River, to the south part of Iraq. But the map was concentrated on the north, like the 12 tribes of Israel has lived not only in the southern part, but also they were promised the northern parts. So only the 4 big towns in Lebanon would be near the coast, would be expended from that, because they were the trade communities with the Israelites in the old times. They had a very good neighborship, trading with them, with the Solomon kingdom and so on. So if they want to take all this back, especially the religious ones among them, who see politics as tool for the religious prophecies and not the other way around, it's like they want to fulfill all this. And I told him to answer me very clearly and very honestly. Are there plans among the Israelites to go all the way up there and all the way to the east, south of Damascus, and to take all this place? And he looked at me, he said, among the many Jews that I know, also ministers and people with the religious scholars and so on, they don't have plans for that. They know it exists on the map, and they know that this could be a promised land by God, but they're not going to force it through. I told him, why not? He said, most likely because it's not feasible. It's not possible to do it. They can. This is madness, he said. It's not. They will just like enrage the Arabs and every other nation in such a manner that they won't be able to hold it for long. So they know it's not realistically possible. But if it was, probably they would go for it, because they believe this is part of their land, what God had promised them, the Holy Land. So there could be a wave of expansion now. This is my words. I thanked him a lot, and I said to myself, this could be a wave of expansion now, if not the whole Lebanon, then part of it in the south, part of it in the east. Per se, you can say Sinai and the West Bank is already under that territory. So you have already, and the Golan Heights would stay under the Israeli command. And the Arabs can't do anything about it. The international community isn't going to do anything about it. So God has granted them the power and weakened everybody else, so they could go through with that. But will they go all the way to Lebanon? And then I told this very knowledgeable scholar and fine dialogue partner, he's good to talk to. He listens and he has a depth and can talk intellectually. And he respected that as well in me, because it's not easy to find people to talk to these days who are intellectual and who know a lot and who can ask the right questions and listen to the answers, not only discuss and not only turn their face away or not only get angry at each other. And so I told him, I asked him again whether what's going on now could be part of that expansion. I told him that what happened in the 70s was that the Lebanese Christians, the Phalanx, they belong to the Maronite Lebanese Christian groups. They are like affiliated with the Catholics, but have their own ways and monks and belief in the Christ, of course. They believe they foiled a big plan that was put forward by Kissinger and some other people in America and the United States, the biggest power on earth, to move all the Palestinians to Lebanon, thereby replacing the sovereignty of the Lebanese government and people, especially the Christians, would be hit there because Lebanon was originally, after World War One, intended to be, and before World War One finished, it in 1916 and so on, it was intended to be a place where the Christians could have like a small kingdom and a small republic, mostly of Christians, but mixed with some other groups. It's like a multicultural, multi-religious entity, but where Christians have a special governing power. And they felt that this was threatened. And that's part of the reason for the Lebanese wars, I told him. And he was surprised. And I told him, yeah, you should try to look that up and listen to what Bashir Gemayel, the elected president at that time who got killed, he has been saying about this. Because they got so enraged about the plans that the Palestinians should be pushed forward and given another homeland. It's like a new homeland, and let us keep the homeland to the south. This is not strange to the Israeli mind at all. I have, with time, learned how the Israelis think and how the Arabs think. And so I can, like many times, understand that they can think in these ways. It's not possible, neither for the Arabs nor for the Israelis, to think in these terms. Okay, you get that land to the north, we get the one to the south. And the Christians would be stuck in the middle because they would be surrounded by Jews on the south and a lot of Muslims on the north, especially the Palestinians, who are not Lebanese in their eyes either. And they will be stuck. What will happen to them? They will go into a diaspora. They will be forced to migrate or do something about it. And so part of the war and fighting was also to prevent this plan from taking hold. And it somehow succeeded because Lebanon got rid of Arafat, and they got later rid of some of the other militias. And well, the state, in a very failed way, continued to represent Lebanon as that entity, whatever that is. But anyhow, I wanted to just talk about the end times, that we should be careful when we read about the end times in the Bible and New Testament and the Quran and the Hadith, that there are signs that hasn't revealed themselves yet. But not only that, we shouldn't push it forward and force it, especially if it involves killing people, displacing them, hurting them. God won't forgive that. Don't do it. If you're a believer in the one God, don't do that at all. Leave it to God. And I love this one Muslim who came in a documentary with a British journalist once. I saw him on TV. And this journalist was traveling the Arab world, and he came to Jerusalem and talked to Jews and showed how they're treating their Palestinian neighbors, and talked to the Palestinians and how they hated the Jews and the problems between them and so on. And then he came to this shop of souvenirs where an Arab, clearly Muslim because he had a praying mat and they showed he was praying, he was selling artifacts like crosses and crescent moons and even Jewish stars and the Jewish symbols and so on. And he was surprised, said, wow, you're a Muslim, but you're selling all this to all religions. Say, yeah, we have people from all religions here, and everybody who comes, he can find an artifact that fits him. So how do you feel about, you are a Palestinian, you had this land for 1,000 years or more, and now it's been taken away. The Jews are here, they're controlling your life and so on. And he had a brilliant answer. He told him, this is all part of God's plan and will. And who are we to oppose God's will? They are here because of God's will. Wow, I love this answer. And he meant, of course, the God of the Quran. He's reading the Quran saying that God will bring them back and give them the power. And he said, well, if it's happening according to God's will and plan, who are we to oppose this? And when God wants to weaken them or they do wrong, they do it to themselves. If you do good, you do it to yourself. And if you do wrong, wrong will be returned back to you. This is what God tells them in the Quran. I believe the same words can be found in different shapes and ways in the Old Testament on the tongue of the old prophets. So I am okay with the Jewish and Israeli population living in the Holy Land. They have been living there for thousands of years. After the Muslims took over, they didn't leave. They just not been in so great numbers, and they didn't rule and put the policy for the country as they wanted it. They were a minority, sometimes not well treated, but many times their rights were given to them according to Muhammad's law on how the Jews and Christians should be treated as a minority. Their churches and synagogues should not be taken from them. They should be respected in their quarters. They should have the place to pray and do their rituals without any harassment. That doesn't mean harassment hasn't happened to them from Muslims, but we shouldn't exaggerate either, saying that's only harassment, only killing, only persecuting them. They have had a lot of space for 1,200, 300 years under the Ottomans, before them the Mamluks, before them the Abbasids, and before them the Amawids. It's not true to say they were persecuted only and they were pushed away. It's the other way around. When the Muslims took over Spain, the Christians, many of the Jews fled to that area because they were more secure there than they were in the Middle Ages among the Christians, who hated them for being the ones who betrayed the Christ and so on. And so it's history is not just so linear as we want it to be. It's a lot more complicated. It's human in many shapes and forms. Anyhow, I'm okay with them being there, but I'm not and never okay with them hurting a child, running people out of their homes. And I have the same view on the Palestinians. They should look inwards. Why God has punished them like He has, uh, pulling them out of the Holy Land. I know some part of Palestinians are good people with good hearts and good minds and generous and easygoing, but there are many among them who are really tyrannic. There are also many among them who are manipulators, cheaters, among each other. I have been speaking to Palestinians in my younger days and visiting their camps and other places, and they've been telling stories that's really heartbreaking about how they treat each other and from place to place. Once I held a speech where I was upset about how people in Muslim communities, they weren't like friends and good, and I said I don't want to be part of um, any rallies or groups anymore, and I'm leaving for good. And then a Muslim Palestinian came to me after the speech. He had another one with him, another guy, a man in the 40s. He was a bald, tall man, and he spoke roughly. He said, "Listen, I can hear you're upset here, but you have nothing to be upset about. When our family and groups, they came to their camp," and he pointed to that man he had taken with him to talk to me. He said, "When our group came to help them in the camps after the massacre that happened, after the raid that happened from partly the Shiites and the Christians and the Syrians at that time, you know what they said about us? They said, 'Here comes the strangers.'" And he told him, "Isn't that right? Isn't that right?" So he asked him. And the other guy, he nodded and said, "Yeah, yeah." So he said, "What are you sad about? Look how we treat each other as close Palestinian friends and camps. Um, so what are you upset about?" It's like he's telling me, "Cool down, chill down. It's worse than you think." But that didn't cool me down, just make my mind go run more wild, saying this is illogic, this is not good. And of course, I withdrew from everything and anything that had anything to do with communities there, because if people are so unjust and so ignorant and so little knowledgeable and using manipulation in such great number and way, they don't deserve God's power and help. And that's why if they believe in the Quran has told them that when people go bad, He will send people to punish them and take over from them. And in these times, well, he fulfilled His promise to the Israelites, and now He's watching the Israelites. I'm sure of that, and they know that, the Israelites and their scholars. They should warn their people and the politicians, watch out. There is a greater God who made this possible for us now. How are we treating our neighbors, and how are we dealing with our situation? And I'm not saying that the Palestinians aren't haters as well. Some of the Jews were willing to live side by side with the Palestinians, but it all went up in flames because they started attacking the Palestinian villages, wanting to make room space, Lebensraum, and the Palestinians hit them back. And the Palestinians had said before with the Arabs, "We will keep fighting until death." until last one of us. We will either kill you or drive you out of this country and this place. This is Muslim and will stay and belong to the Muslims. This is a very deep ideology among the Muslims that shows up from time to time. Maybe not so clear in these days and years, but it is there just under the surface. And the Jewish knows that. The Israelis know that. They know when they finish from one enemy, there is another. The problem is also that the many of Israelites, they are taught from the childhood that Arabs are no good. They are a less deserving, what can you say, tribe or people, and they are the sons of Ishmael, who is the son of that maid servant. So they are servants and should be for the Jews. Arabs know that, and their scholars are warning them from going. What can you say? From losing sight of what the Israelis really believe in them. So I've spoken to some ordinary Arabic people. They said, if they could, they would throw us all out, or they will make a virus that could kill us all. Or maybe they are trying to do something in a way so they could take the land without hurting the land, killing all the people. By killing all the people by a virus or by some kind of biological weapon in a way, in the air, in the water. This is what they told me. I know it sounds crazy to many non-Orientalistic people from the Middle East. This is not normal talk. People know these things or believe in these things. But if you speak to people in Europe and in Asia and other places, say, what are these people thinking? But they are thinking like that because it seems they know each other. The Israelis will go to any length, many of them, to fulfill their goals. And you can only admire that. They have the will, the strength, the power, and God has granted it to them now to make it work. And the Arabs are really harsh and hard-minded and stubborn. They will be back at them again and again. It has been going on for 100 years and will still be going on until the international community realize that it won't work. It's relentless. And so once the Jewish people weakens, and they will weaken if they start being unjust to each other, to other people, to Christians, to people they don't like, then God will start weakening them. And when they got weak enough, the Arabs will be back at their throats. They know that as well. That's why they keep everybody down. And that's why one Arabic leader once said, be sure to be keeping that tiger down, because once you're off my throat, I'm at your throat. So this is how they do and feel. It's tragic. It's very, very tragic. I don't even understand why the good God let this happen and why we humans have to suffer all this. This is another talk, why suffering and this kind of things happens at all if we have a God who can interfere and do things for good. And they believe, every religion believe he interferes on their behalf. I know it sounds silly and crazy. It's not to be understood at all. That's why many people turn away from religion and from God, say this is cruel, this is evil, this is no good. A good, strong God with the power to do anything would solve these problems and help them live side by side, or give them space enough to do so. Well, the easy answer on that, from especially religious people and philosophers who believe in the destiny of the human wars, they would say because God gave us free will, so he wouldn't suppress us as slaves and be controlling us all the time. We have been given to do what we like, the way we like it, but with consequences. And these are the consequences we are suffering from our own free will of hatred, taking over power, suppressing each other. And this has been the history of the whole humankind, unfortunately, since the first man killed his brother, and it's been going on from time to time. No way around it, it seems, as long as we are stuck in this world. Whatever, there is a big conflict in the Middle East, and new chapters are brewing. We have the Iran war now. We could see another developments in other areas around the Middle East. The Arab countries are in big trouble. We have Turkey on the verge of getting into big trouble because they are trying to intervene in ways that really gives the sore eye on them from the Americans and from the Europeans. They like their role, they like them to mediate, they like them to be the strong power, but at the same time they are fearful of them, and especially the Israelis. They have an eye to Turkey that if they go over the line, they will take them down from the inside. I'm sure they can put uh, other people in place there. So it's a huge power to have for Israel today, for the Israelis, and it's growing, and it will be fulfilled, whether it's now or it will come a little later. And everything I'm seeing is like showing the way to that, and showing the times where things will develop further. And well, it's always goodness that prevails, and God's will, and God doesn't like injustice. This is what He told us and told in the monotheistic religions. I don't like injustice, don't do it. And God orders justice and goodness, and care for each other. This is what God wants. If you don't fulfill it, the anger and the curse will hit. Doesn't matter who it is. Well, the Israelis, they've just been in power for 50, 60, 70 years. They should look tightly to how they look in other people's eyes. And I know some Christians who go to the Holy Land every year, taking groups of Christians to follow in the Via Dolorosa, and in the footsteps of the Christ and the Golgotha, and to visit the old places. And some of them, they really come back shocked of the way they get the sense of the Israelite Jews being arrogant, harsh, looking down at people, feeling superior to everyone. It's a psychological thing inside humans. Um, they can feel. They say this is it's not good, and the way they throw garbage at the Palestinians in some areas, and so on and so on. There is. It's not good to be filled with hatred. If you are a big power, you should be filled with grace and forbearing and understanding, and finding solutions, and looking at the other as your human brother, even if he's the son of a slave. He is your cousin in the end. They're also Semitic like you. Um, but if you look at the other side, as I said before about the Arabs, you find the same traits of harshness, cruelty, manipulation, uh, suppression. It's in huge numbers among the Arabs as well, both religious and non-religious people. And so, who deserves it more, huh? Or who deserves it less? This is up to the time to show us. Thanks for this, and I'm glad I had the chance to speak it out of my mind, well knowing that nobody or very few will be listening. And this is my goal. There should be one or two out there who are those special persons who understand this kind of talk and need it, and would like to listen to it. The rest, well, it's a quick news, or they have already their beliefs and they wouldn't like the way I present things. So I'm okay with that. And the most important thing for me is to leave my mind and thoughts out there, if somebody in need one day would get an inspiration or an understanding from it. And I ask and pray that things go well for life and humans. Such a tragedy with us. It's such a tragedy.